one production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
We don't need exact counts.
Welcome. It's 2 o'clock. We start on time.
Yeah, you're late.
You're late. Not according to my phone. I go by the
2 o'clock is right.
I forgot all the things I usually admonish you all about.
Turn down your phone.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else?
Are you in charge today? Are you in charge?
I am in charge. Isn't that something? Thank God Karen sent me an email last night or called me and said, did you know that you're facilitating tomorrow? No.
If you hurry, you can wrap it all up today.
15 minutes.
Oh, with me facilitating?
Yeah.
Right. So have patience. Jeff was kind enough to send me a presentation, which of course I had to put my own touches on. You know, it's a
Okay.
woman. Go ahead, Paul.
She's priceless.
Can you not show the left?
Yep.
All right. Next. A lot of today is going to be reminders and refreshers. I know you probably are going, oh, but it's a good time to do that. There's our reminders, and they're still in effect.
Not at all.
Yes, I know, I couldn't pull into that slide. He's got it.
But you know where we're at.
Right. Well, I think we do. Next. I have changed this just a tad. The fourth dot down says that depending on the amount of time that we have, I might like to have this become our first strategic alternatives committee town hall, so that the guests can speak if they would like. I don't know if we'll have time, but up until you hear me say it's okay to speak, though, please don't say anything. Next. The motion made by Treasurer Fast, and I think you all can read, I don't have to read it for you. Next. And the charter that we created for the committee. To our members, by our members. Next. These were some of the goals that we kept in mind. Next. And these were the measurements that we instituted for decision making. Next. As
You can
well
only
know-
read so fast, girl.
Oh, don't you ask?
You might want to read along.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Do you want me to go back at all?
Yeah,
Oh, go back?
I thought I was the only.
How far back?
Read along with us, and you'll know when we're done.
Okay, should I go back a couple more? Okay,
That's
sorry.
okay. It's okay.
That's true, I never thought about it.
So let's read out loud.
Just precautionary. What's that last line mean?
I'll just look at all of you when you look bored.
Yeah, sounds good.
As you know, we created the communication portion, and it's really a great tool to look back at
Sounds
things,
like a computer, but it
to
wasn't.
know where to look. And we talked about possibly doing this for some of the other committees. Next. Some of today's focus is going to be on reviewing data, refreshing our memories, and then I've specified mini golf in the pool, and you'll see why. Next. Marlene asked, what do we want at Mountain View? Instead of what do we want, shouldn't she have said, what does data suggest that would make sense?
We translated.
Next. Keeping these statements in mind, don't forget that the motion encompassed the entire campus, not just an auditorium. And that the PIF money, which in the past has been called a placeholder, that was allotted was for the years 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2026, and that was only for option 2, which eliminated pickleball, lawn bowling, one more, mini golf. Thank
But
you.
was 25 not?
Oh,
in there?
here it is right here.
Why wasn't 2025 included there?
Because I don't think we're doing anything in 2025. We skip another year.
Skipped a
or
year
two and do
to
the
finish.
pool,
25 was called.
and then skip another couple of years and do the building to hold the pickleball.
Well, it didn't necessarily eliminate, it offset it to a future
Yeah, just
line.
That was all
postponed it.
in the
Yeah.
PIF plan. Right,
2025 was for the golf courses.
thank you. Yes.
I didn't think pickleball was eliminated, it was just moved to Lakeview and more courts added at Mountain View.
No,
Was
I'm-
that not correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
I'm talking about the PIF plan.
Okay.
I'm not talking about what the motion became. Karen?
So I can offer some clarification there. So Mountain View Phase 1 in the PIF plan was 3 years, 22, 23, and 24.
Okay.
Phase 2, so the swimming pool portion of that, was 2026. And Phase 3 was 2030 and 2031.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's,
I knew I should have put that slide up there. Just didn't have
okay.
time. Okay, go ahead. So there's where we eliminated lawn bowling, pickleball, and mini golf. And the option 2 at that time added a large performing arts center, a rotunda, and a gymnasium. Next. And I believe, I'm not sure that's the correct slide. I tried to find the slide that had all that empty space where lawn bowling and pickleball and mini golf were.
Yeah, that's the light
Is that
yellow,
the right parking lot?
the light yellow space that's on the south end of that.
Right, and I think
Yeah,
the
that's-
pools were
that's
part
the
of
gym.
option 2.
That's the gym.
And that's the rotunda.
That's the rotunda. And that's, so beyond, to the right and above and to the right of the palm trees is 102,000 square feet that was going to be Phase 3.
Oh, okay.
But the existing pickleball is on the bottom left.
That's correct, underneath the gymnasium.
Oh,
oh,
that's news to me. Okay.
yeah,
So
that's,
the pool was part of this, not just the back and the pool was part of Phase 2. Pools.
Yeah.
part of
No, I think she said the pools were future, but it wasn't. The pools were included in this budget.
The pool
Okay.
was included in the PIF
Yeah, well-
plan,
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
just not in the first
Yeah.
phase.
Isn't that what we're seeing there, the first phase though with the?
I don't know, I was trying to
Phases 1
find
and
the
2.
slide
Okay.
that
That's what-
I couldn't find it.
So that's phase 1 and 2 combined on that first.
Yes.
Yes, yes. So keeping these statements in mind, and now this is what you were talking about, Lana. The portion of the motion that spoke about pickleball at Lakeview was a suggestion that was made by the previous board to appease the pickleball club. And these are my words, okay?
Okay.
It only affected the tennis courts at Lakeview. Yes, Mr.
Well,
Haberman?
I'm not real happy with the word appease, but,
Okay. What would you like me to say
well,
instead?
it was
Compromise need the needs.
to accommodate more pickleball courts. It wasn't to appease, I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well, okay. History seems to recall that
Temporary.
there was a lot of upset people
Yeah.
when they discovered that the pickleball and the lawn bowling and the mini golf had disappeared off the plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so we're reviewing this just to give us a refresher of what was in the past, and we've moved on from this considerably. So it's just a reference.
And that's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to point out.
just a reference, yeah.
In my subtle way.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, John? And I'm only calling on you because you're a member of the committee. Because people who are
not
guests are
sitting
not
back here.
supposed to speak.
Well, if I can call, what motion are you speaking of, Gene?
I'm sorry, could you
What
say?
motion are you speaking, the one I made or the one?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the one that I made.
Paul, can you go back to like the very
March.
beginning? There. There's
Yeah.
your motion.
Yes, the one I made was to suspend the work, realizing that no money had been allocated to the pickleball courts at Lakeview. I just want to clarify that. That was an unauthorized promise by a former president.
Okay.
Now, that shouldn't weigh into your current decision making. I just want to set the historical record right.
Okay.
John Noakowski tried to allocate money and the board turned it down.
Steve, you're not supposed to talk.
Too late now.
Yes, proceed, Paul. You can remember where we are? 13? And at the very bottom, oh, yes, I mentioned Lakeview is slated for replacement, but not until 2034 and 2035. Not that that has anything to do with what we're charged. Go ahead. Oh, I thought I took this out. Sorry. Those were the figures. And of course, you can tell they were done in 2021. You know that they're not correct. And until the money is in the PIF, we can't do it. Next. So, I'm going to ask what Marlene asked you a little differently. As the chosen representative from your club and activity, and using the data that was presented, what should be placed at Mountain View? Remember, you are revitalizing the entire center for the good of the community, but especially the residents who utilize it. And on that point, how many of you on the committee, show of hands, use Mountain View? Thank you. And on the guests, how many use Mountain View? Great, thank you. We got the right people here then, don't we? I just wish there were a few more. Next. Now we're going back. just to refresh again, does the data suggest that tennis needs more courts at Mountain View?
Not
Does
more.
it suggest that lawn mowing share of the physical footprint is justified? Next. What about the need to double the size of the fitness center? And does it support the renovation or construction of a new auditorium for the Players Club and the other 11 groups in the arts category?
Jean,
Yes?
just a question on that, where we use the phrase "new auditorium."
Yes.
We aren't really looking at a new auditorium, we're looking at a performing arts center.
Yeah,
Yes.
new or
And so the new
Upgraded.
auditorium really isn't what the data supports.
It might be confused with the gym, you're saying?
yeah.
I actually,
Well, it says for the Players Club, so a new auditorium for the Players Club, no.
no,
It's a PVC.
that's incorrect. You're right. So does it support the renovation
Renovation or construction
or construction? That's
of
probably
players.
And I believe it's for much more than the Players Club and the other 11 groups
Yeah,
in the arts category. That's the whole point, is that, yes, they would use it, but there are so many more uses that the community could use that for, above and beyond that limited number of groups.
right.
Are we at the point where we're answering the questions or just listening to them?
I don't, you can chat. I don't care.
Okay, so I, put on that where it says Players Club and 11 groups. So over the last month, I've probably talked to about 120 people, particularly about the things here. So today I'm going to be pretty vocal about the points that they brought up to me, and I said that on their behalf I'll bring them. So one of the points that they made, particularly on the current auditorium, or some people call it a performing arts center, they said, okay, there's the Players Club, and it's got less than 100 members. It's got like 93.
No,
the
it's
biggest-
around 120.
Okay, 120. The last time we talked, it was less, but whatever. And, last year, the average size was 3,400 attendees. Not a single performance exceeded 200 people in these plays. So, which a lot of people are now saying, why are we even talking about something that's 300, 350, 400, 600?
is that right?
When we never have more than 200.
Okay, wait,
that's not
let's
true.
let one-
Excuse me, I'm talking. And I have a slide up here with the data, and we've reviewed it, and I got the data from the Players Club. So when I'm finished talking, then you can have your rebuttal. Thank you. So the people were saying to me that just the Players Club alone doesn't warrant the type of investment that we're talking about. When you look at the other groups, Karen did an excellent job of presenting a slide during her presentation, if you remember it, some weeks ago, that listed these 11 groups and other people that, and that's true, but people said to me, but how many people are going to be attending those events? In other words, how many members benefit from spending that kind of money? And so when you list those, and we never asked that question, we said these clubs would take up so many hours in a calendar year, but we didn't say how many people would be there. And is it 3,000, is it 4,000 people like the Players Club gets? Is that number 10,000 people? Is it 15,000 people? We never asked that question. And most people are saying, it seems like we're talking about spending $10, $15 million, they don't know, big number, to satisfy a very small proportion of the membership of Sun City. So the question they ask is, what is the least expensive way to accommodate the needs of the Players Club? They're not opposed to it, and I haven't had anybody say that. They just don't want to spend the kind of money that's been talked about. And these other 11 groups, many of them said they can use other Sun City facilities to take care of their requirements without us spending tens of millions of dollars. So that's my comments on that particular question. Thank you.
Okay, I believe, Tad, you had a rebuttal.
Yes, the limited number of people attending was due to the requirements by the RCSC for spacing things out and not exposing people to COVID. We have had as many as 500 people in attendance for a musical. There were no musicals last year. We were looking at, shall we say, a very tenuous situation as far as the continued use of Mountain View, and you're saying that because we were not able to use Mountain View due to the tenuous nature of what was proposed by the last board and now this one, that we should be penalized for it. There are a number of groups, as this shows, that could and would be using Mountain View in a theater-type set of seating. At this point, these seats are a little more comfortable than the ones there, but not a lot. The ones there, after half an hour or so, are very uncomfortable on the butt.
Okay. Are you about done?
Well, I could go further, but I'll stop for now.
Everybody here on this end of the room represents a passion, and we appreciate yours, but we've got to keep the meeting going. Anita?
In response to Jeff, yes, the attendance has been low. The acoustics are horrible, the lighting's bad, the chairs are ridiculous. That's why people don't go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even subject myself to spending 2 hours there. For what? It's not worth it. I can't hear it, I can barely see it, and my butt's killing me, so why would I go there? But we also have to remember, as Karen did, she had figured approximately, Karen, I think it was 270 days it could be used. And I know, Jeff, you have said we accommodate the music clubs in the music room. Accommodating in a room that they're not happy with is not accommodating. It's putting them in a room because it's the only room we have. We owe those groups a decent place to do what they do. It would be just like I would say, okay, you've got a golf course and it's got weeds. Get over it and learn how to play it. That's what these other groups are doing in the music room that doesn't accommodate them.
Okay, Sue?
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, I absolutely sorry to the Players Club, but I have never attended one of their performances. I never will in that facility. And I have 4 sisters that all live in Sun City. We are in total agreement. We are not going to go to an event that involves sitting on a flat floor on very hard chairs and being unable to see. Sometimes you can only see because they put a projector to the side so you can stare like if it's a band. You can stare at the band on the projector. I might as well sit home. I mean, I would not ever attend that. Sun City deserves a facility with theater seating and somewhere where all of Sun City can come and enjoy all kinds of arts and movies and events in comfort.
Lana? Just let's try to keep these comments brief because we've all heard all of this before.
Too much.
We need to have performing arts. I have so many friends, they go there and they all complain about the same thing.
Okay.
But it is also a huge moneymaker, you know, and people are going to attend. You have something nice to go to, people are going to attend a performance because these people are awesome.
Okay. Elsa?
May I ask what is the purpose of this review? I thought it was to review what we've talked about and said on, not to throw in new requirements that might come from a town hall meeting, which is kind of what I heard from Jeff, that he's talked to so many people. But this is our review of what's been put out there, and that's part of our review.
Well, perhaps I shouldn't have allowed anyone to speak until the end.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's...
This is a review. Unless someone has another comment that's totally different than anything that's been said.
Well, I support the PAC, and I'm going to go to their next two
Okay.
because they look really
All right,
good.
let's-
Ripcord sounds fascinating.
Yes.
Steve, there's what's
I
happening.
can't.
Can I-
Steve?
Can I just suggest that we let you get through everything first, and then you can go back to slides and ask for comment?
Okay. Okay. I tried to be nice.
Get tough, June. Go on, get tough.
Next slide. Let's get off that one. So again, this is just history. You've all seen this before. You've all read it. You should have anyway. It's in our beginning documents. Next. What's back? Oh, next. Sorry. If I'm not mistaken, these came about after the town halls. Next.
Excuse me, this was the town halls, when were they held?
5 years, June.
2018.
2018.
Thank you.
2018.
Next. This is my summary. Mine. Next. Now I'm just kind of refreshing your memory that the motion was made to stop the process at Mountain View. That's the entire campus at Mountain View, which is listed here. Not just the auditorium.
It stopped the proceeding of option 2.
Stop the proceeding.
Which was
Yes,
affected everyone.
yes.
Yes.
Okay, one thing, Jeff, I apologize, but your side won't show because I didn't put it in there. Sorry. I didn't want any controversy.
I thought the purpose of the committee was to have some controversy.
Well,
But anyway,
and
I promise to put it back in for the next time we meet.
if you don't mind, I wrote this down as you were talking.
That's okay.
I said, that's the reason, Jeff, that we're having town halls, so that we can hear from more than just 10, 20, 140 people that you spoke with. We want to hear from as many members as we can.
Right. And we did say that if members have a question, the audience, I mean, that they should send their questions to somebody on the committee to raise it. And so that's what I was doing.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Next. I don't know about you, but mini golf, why can't we start it in January? What are we waiting for? That was the absolute one thing that everyone agreed on.
Yeah, I agree.
No, they didn't. Am I correct? Paul?
Because if we build something that might take the mini golf scenario, that's why it didn't get moved or didn't get done. If we put a theater or something that was going to infringe on mini golf.
Okay, I guess I was
'Cause it's in
going
back
under
of
the assumption that mini golf was staying
Staying
where
where
it
it
was, no
is.
matter what we did. because of what Marlene put up.
I agree with TJ.
I think we chose that.
Wasn't there some discussion that if we touch that at all, we'd have to put in the handicapable all the way around?
Someone has said that, someone else has disagreed, so I don't know whether anyone looked it up to see if it's parenting.
I did look it up. I think you could Okay, everybody?
Mini golf is currently closed, and they are ripping out the carpeting.
Yes, I realize that, Tad. Karen, did you say you found out that?
So, well, it's not that I did, other people knew this as well. If we move, essentially build a different mini golf place, anything new built needs to meet ADA requirements.
That's what I said.
Which means that it takes like 3 times the space that it would take out of its current footprint.
Okay.
So leaving it where it is allows us not to have to make it ADA compliant.
I guess that's why I surmised that we kind of all agreed on that. Anita?
Gene, may I ask Steve a question? He's shaking his head. Or is that not allowed? If it's not allowed, that's okay.
We are exempt from ADA, we're a nonprofit, we are exempt.
But
Period.
that's what
Period. We are exempt. If we choose not to do it, there's no law or anything that says we have to.
That's Trevor's discussion.
So, just to let you know.
That doesn't make sense.
No comment.
That doesn't make sense.
Next,
Well, what did we decide there?
I didn't decide anything.
Well, but you asked the question.
Oh, you want to go back?
Well,
Well, we're going to finish all the slides and then go back.
I'm sorry?
yeah, okay.
Oh, keep going, okay.
Do like a straw vote, is that worthwhile doing?
Okay, go on.
Let me write that down.
Just to get a sense.
We're going to go back.
Okay, let's come back to mini golf. Okay.
She's writing down to come back to it.
The pool. This is what, and I remember watching these, this is what I heard, we all heard. We love our pool, don't change it. Now, I don't know if they would still feel that way if they knew that we were proposing some beautiful additions to the pool. Plus, I don't know, and I don't know if any of you know, whether or not our pool is up to par. I've heard rumors there's electric or something underneath the, well, I'm not supposed to call on you, Steve.
For when you come back to this slide, please.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but again, these are the town halls from 2018, not what we talked about in this room.
Correct. That's
Exactly.
correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we're talking about
Next. Do you remember these? This is courtesy of Paul Higgins. I could not do the walking pools as well, or the walking as well as you did, but he suggested getting rid of the solar panels and adding a therapy walking pool. Folks at Oakmont mentioned that they find it very, and a lot of people seem to walk. And a therapy pool would be a bit different than just a walking pool.
And now we're back to today.
Now we're back to today. Yeah, I just wanted to see if you could all keep up with me.
So we failed.
Next. This was Sue's presentation. And I probably shouldn't have put it in, but I just did because I felt like it.
Yeah.
good reason.
Well, it shows
was
the
good.
mini golf. And that's unchanged, is that correct?
Right?
Correct.
From where?
So far.
Yes.
At that point, yes.
That's missing some holes there.
I'm sorry?
That's missing some holes in mini golf. That plan there, would-
Oh, was it? Oh,
the
okay.
theater has stepped on several holes there.
Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Next, our Dave Clausen said that Val Recreation Center is Sun City's flagship tennis center.
It is.
Next, John Fass showed us how the pool could be refreshed and created a wow area. Moving the spa, having more shade, adding the sports lap pool. Next. And this is what Marlene projected after you all told her what you would like to see at Mount. Everything is still there.
Except for the tennis courts. Tennis courts have been replaced with pickleball.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me, I thought they were still there also, 6 and 7.
It could be, and painted with pickleball courts.
Yes. Okay, and now just for grins, next. This is my take.
What is it?
I took out lawn bowling and tennis and gave all that area to pickleball. I don't know how many courts, I don't, Pat would be in the existing auditorium, but as Marlene showed, she would make it bigger. Marlene's restrooms were below and the fitness was above. We added more shade and patio. And then over where the solar is, I put in the therapy. And then mini golf is staying there. And the question is, does the data support pickleball's request for a chunk of land that size? Next. So we're at crunch time, folks. What we need to know, and I wish Norm was here because he's told me this.
Norm is here.
That's what happens when you're quiet, Norm.
My whole life I get overlooked because I'm too quiet.
I apologize, Norm.
It's magic.
Norm,
Your wish is
do
granted.
you remember the 3 things that you told me that this committee needs before they can go forward?
More lawn mowing.
That's 3 words.
No, I asked Norm, do you remember or not? One was, we need to know how much it's going to cost to renovate the auditorium. We need to know how much it's going to cost to construct a new auditorium there.
We need to know if it's possible to renovate the auditorium.
Lakeview. But if you're going to construct an auditorium, the cost will be basically the same at Lakeview or Mountain View, except for the demolition, and that's pretty cheap.
And I'm still kind of ignoring Lakeview because Lakeview had just a tiny piece of this pie when we started. It was only Lakeview, tennis courts, and pickleball. There was nothing ever mentioned about the auditorium going. Last week, I played the video several times and I couldn't find a spot where she mentioned a dollar amount of what at the very end or somewhere she mentioned a dollar amount on how much it would cost to demolish and rebuild at Mountain View. Did anybody hear it?
I don't think you heard that.
I heard 35 million.
That was Lakeview.
20 to 30 million?
25 to 30 million.
25 to 30.
But I don't think that,
I didn't
I
hear
think
that.
that's a top of head number and not a cost estimated number.
I'm sorry, I don't know if others can hear you, I can't.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's a top of head number rather than a cost estimated number. That's why we're waiting for her. She needed a couple of weeks to get accurate cost estimations. So she did say 25 to 30 million for a new 20,000 square foot pack built from scratch.
Okay.
But I think it was a top of head number.
So I think, even being a top of head number, you have to admit, right now, we have $27.3 million in our PIP. And I think that kind of points to the fact that if you renovate excuse me, if you tear down most every cent of the PIF that's allotted is going to be for one thing, the PAC. I just want you to keep that in mind. Perhaps I'm the first one who's ever said that, I don't know.
So having said that, Jean, are you wanting to test the waters with a straw poll to see how the committee feels today?
How about we need to wait a little bit until let them talk a little more?
Is this the final slide?
No, I got one.
We're waiting. Keep going.
Keep going.
Next.
Keep going.
There. This is by, just for the rest. We had 5,000 people answer the survey. Which would you like to remodel? Lakeview or Mountain View? Who won?
Both.
Kind of interesting.
Lakeview was higher.
Actually, the way the question was presented, the way the question was presented in the survey made them equally important. So I suspect what people did was they wouldn't accept either. So they voted for both.
Oh, okay. That's your interpretation. That's what But the statement about the question is...
I would say that there's not much of a statistical difference between the two.
And next 10 years is,
I agree.
in the next 10
Okay.
years. Yeah.
That is the end. And let's see. We have to go back to mini golf. I believe we have to go back to the pool. And I think we should, there was something else.
Lawn bowling.
Possibly, lawn bowling, a straw vote, but let's take a 10-minute break.
Why?
Right.
Yeah.
Keep going. Did you need a break, Jean?
No, I don't this time.
Actually, I'm the one that instigated the request for a 10-minute break, only because I needed to talk about something important with my two co-chairs that before I can share it with the group. So if you would indulge just to 10 minutes.
You guys can go out and talk.
Okay, we're missing a few people, but, excuse me,
Okay.
10 minutes has gone by. I have to admit that I don't think it's on our agenda for the board meeting on the 28th. I think we might have forgotten to include it. It is the fact that you all are to make a presentation to the board about what you have come up with, discovered.
Are you talking September 28th?
If it, September 28th, yes.
You give them
Now, I think you need to maybe have a spokesperson, unless you all think you want to come on board.
Jean, I understand what you're saying, but in a meeting earlier, John flat out said that he was the one doing it and he was the one responsible for doing it.
Oh, no.
I don't know that that's accurate, but that's what he said earlier.
I don't believe that's accurate. I believe...
As the committee chair.
Paul, can you get into our website and go to the strategic? I didn't bring anything else with me today. To our
John
group.
is gone.
And we will look at what one of the very first agendas.
Well, they changed the date, Gene, to the October meeting because we didn't have the numbers from the architect until after the board meeting.
Right, so are we not doing a presentation at all
So
this
there
week?
wasn't going to be a presentation in September.
That's what I had understood.
That would be much better.
It would be a
Okay,
non-presentation.
hang on 1 minute. Go down, Paul. Go down to the first time you see agenda. Oh, right there. Updated, 8/4. What does that look like?
Can't read it.
No, you can click on it. and
Whoops,
it'll
wait,
open.
okay.
Okay, go to the second page. Over here on the left. The yellow page.
Just put it down.
Scroll down, scroll down.
Keep going. Whoa, back up.
A little bit further.
With the-
929.
Oh, right there. What does that say? Oh, I'm sorry. Review of recommendations with the board of directors and the membership.
And that's been delayed for a while.
And I think what Karen said last week was, we were just going to report at that Board of Directors meeting that a decision had not been final yet.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes. And I just wanted to make sure you all knew that somebody needed to do that.
How about you, Norm?
Somebody needed to do it. I'm confused about what you're wanting somebody to do.
Norm's not here.
I thought, okay, I've heard that I'm confusing everyone, so I'll need your help. I thought we were still having the committee, and I have that, I don't even have that right there. I mean, that's right, that's what you said we're doing on
That's what
September
Karen
28th.
That's what Karen said.
Okay. Well, Karen, you're back. I told these folks while you were gone that they had some homework, that they are supposed to come to the board meeting on the 28th and let us know. The board meeting is the 28th, and present something to the board on the results or whatever of this group.
The status. There are no
Status.
the status.
Is that still what you're thinking?
Well, that would be consonant with the motion that was made, that there would be a status report to the board on the 28th.
That's what I thought. So
Karen, are you saying the committee or a board member?
A representative of the committee.
a representative of the committee. Why would
I'm asking.
a board member
I'm
bring
just asking.
forth what you all are working for?
Fine with me.
Help me out
Someone's
here.
allowed to issue.
I don't understand why you're calling on somebody that isn't here. This is not a big issue. We can settle this right now if the committee's willing to. And in agreement, we could make a recommendation right now that we have not reached a conclusion on the Mountain View PAC issue, and then the board can present that at that meeting, and none of us have to go to it.
Right.
Not that I don't like you guys.
Excuse me, I don't want to hear that last bit. I'm not going to it.
All right, so
Yes.
call for a vote?
If that's,
Yes.
if that's approved, I'm seeing a lot of heads nodding.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, I could make a motion that we recommend to the board that we have not completed the work, we're waiting for more data, and that we would recommend that the committee continue to function.
I second that motion.
Okay, so now we'd need to,
I third it. Let's go for it.
All in favor?
All in
All in
favor?
favor? Okay.
All opposed?
It has carried.
Now, how do you wish that to be presented to the board? Does one of you want to bring that forward?
this is a recommendation from this committee to the board. I don't care how you deliver it, but somebody delivers it in writing to the board, and then the board can just read it or say what.
Our current status is, we don't know nothing.
We're still a work in progress.
Since we're
Waiting
not on
for
the
the
agenda,
agenda.
that's probably what we're
Not
doing.
enough information. And I think that should probably come from the chair to organize this whole thing, which is John.
Yep, that would
Well,
work.
3. Jeff?
Could you put
Co-chairs.
the previous slide up with the schedule on it, please?
It's not on there.
Which?
The agenda?
Right here.
You want this?
No,
Oh.
I was just talking with the two co-chairs. I gave them an update that I received from the architect this morning. She's got our site diagram with the requirements that the committee put together, and Jean showed it on the slide earlier here today. But she gave me an update that the detailed cost estimates, or budgetary cost estimates, is not going to be done on September 29th like we had. She says the earliest it's going to be available to this group is October 20th. Okay, so it is what it is. And now, Karen and John and I were talking, and one of the things the committee should decide is we have some weeks between now and then. Do we want to meet? Our suggestion is that maybe some of these points that Jean's bringing up here about looking at data, that we really put the data up for every decision that we make and do it at these subsequent meetings. This is something for the committee to decide. I'm in favor of doing that. I've got nothing else to do on Friday.
No, I do.
Hang on.
Yeah, let the committee.
I think you had your hand
Frankly,
first.
I think until we have numbers, something to work with, we really don't have any way of making any decisions.
Right.
I think we should not meet again until we have numbers in hand and we can step forward.
Okay. And
Other than that, we're just
Basically, I was
talking.
gonna say the same
Same thing.
thing. Until we have numbers, we don't know what else we can fit in anywhere.
We're just spinning our wheels until.
Okay. It sounds like after today then, we would not meet again until October 20th. Okay?
One more.
Yay.
You want to make a motion? Just make it official point. Make a motion?
The motion was already made and passed.
Motion for what, John?
Next meeting.
I motion that our next meeting will be October 20th.
I second.
All in favor?
Everybody in favor of not meeting until the 20th of October? Thank you.
Jean, somebody make sure the producers are
Yes. I'm finished with my presentation. I hope it didn't confuse you. Like I said, I got it rather late, and I did what I could. The rest of this meeting will be open first to the committee, because some of you had questions maybe of me, or you may have questions of your three co-chairs that I can't answer. And then if we have time, I'd love to maybe have a mini town hall and open it to the folks who I always have to say can talk. And they may have some questions that others have. So Sue, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question of the committee. So if you don't mind, I'll come on up.
No, do you want me to hand the microphone?
Oh, just go.
Madam Chair.
All right, first, yay for October 20th. I think we can all use a break. We've all, and a lot of the committee I've discussed on the side in a few moments quickly. The issue that's been bothering us since the very beginning of the very first meeting, pretty much. And that is the strong, really strong influence that the board members that are committee members also are having on the committee. We want the committee members to be the ones making the decisions. We want the committee members to be the ones to be the strong voice. There's a lot of side politicking going on. There's a lot of meetings after hours. There's a lot of decisions being made between committee meetings that we never hear of, we never know anything about, right from week one. I mean, we'll leave 1 week and say, next week we're doing this. And then somehow mysteriously all week long, apparently, I assume our committee chairs are meeting without our knowledge, which, you know, you gotta do sometimes, and then make major decisions without us. And by the time we come back the next meeting, the whole agenda's been changed. The whole focus of what we're doing has been changed. And we're just sitting here going, what happened? And as we don't have a choice because we're not the ones up here talking and we don't get to say what we want to say. So we would like in future, and this is my proposal to the committee, that in future the committee members are the speakers. In future, the board members that are members of the committee step back and allow us to take the forefront. I know you get a vote, but I don't want you to be the ones, I don't know, I don't have any control over whether or not you vote. I mean, as far as I know, you're a member of the committee and all committee members vote. If we had our choice, all right, we'll put it both ways. If we have a vote, I propose that in future, the board members that are members of the committee do not have a vote on our straw votes and our votes as to what happens with Mountain View.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
That's a motion.
I second it.
I second.
All right, all those for?
Can we have further discussion on this before we do a vote?
Discussion.
Certainly. I'm sorry. Sure, go for it.
I don't agree with this motion on the basis that these people put on incredible amount of work. I don't know if you've experienced some of the work that the board members do. One example is this binder that's enormous. It's a great deal of data, and we agreed that we were going to be data-driven. Jeff gave a presentation that was data-driven. I don't agree that we eliminate the people that we agree we're going to provide, or we were going to use data, and then we're going to eliminate people that have done the research. It seems to me that we're eliminating what we agreed to.
Anita, Sue, I'm sorry, Steve, I disagree. We do have the data, and we're more than happy, and we're pleased, and we're thankful, and Grady did all this work. We have the data. We're not 12-year-olds, we can read the data. We can figure it out. We as a committee can make decisions based on that data, and we don't need the chairs and co-chairs to tell us about the data again. We have the data. We don't need to be reminded again and again and again.
And I've got to say, sometimes the things that are mentioned over and over and over again as data have had absolutely no data to back it up. One of which, when I hear that there is, nobody needs a performing arts center anymore, that nobody attends performing arts centers anymore, that it's going downhill. I've heard that multiple times. I've seen no data to reflect that, to actually prove that truth. I do see quite a few performing arts centers surrounding our community in Peoria, in Arrowhead area, and that are all actively running and full every time they do a performance. So, you know, there's a difference between generic data that's out there somewhere and data for Sun City.
True.
So, Norm?
Maybe there's some middle ground. And usually about this time, he will say, stand up. You know, because I'm such a short guy. Maybe there's a middle ground on this. We are a committee, and the committee does include board members, because, and I like them having them here because
I do too.
they get some feedback and discussions that they would not get any other way, no matter what kind of a report you gave. So I think there's an advantage in that. But what you're saying is always in the back of people's minds that we're being manipulated. Now, that's a natural reaction to authority to people with power. Doesn't mean it's happening.
Yes, it is.
But it's a feeling. A few months ago, we had 2 meetings that were run by committee members. It did not exclude board members, but it was run by committee members. And I would suggest that if we've got a couple open weeks now, because you know we don't have the data that we wanted, we could take 1 or 2 of those times and just meet with a committee member running it, but the board members here and participating, just like they usually do. That might be a middle ground and not offend anybody. I don't know, just a suggestion.
I do want to say, I feel the board members that are committee chairs, I know they have a hard job. I know they have things to do that we can't do. I know only they can interact with the architect and find out the dates for us. Only they can provide some of the information we need that's readily handy to them that is not available to us. And I know a lot of that happens in the background. What I do not like is the constant decision-making that's going on between meetings, and then us being very strongly guided through meetings, after meetings, with very little input from us. And then if you raise your hand more than once, they go, yeah, we heard from you. So I do understand the importance of our committee chairs, and I do thank them. I do not like what I feel is constant politicking going on in the background. Politicking outside of the committee meetings. We have committee meetings for a purpose. This is where we're supposed to talk and discuss things as a committee, where everybody hears your opinion and everybody can say otherwise. But the constant meetings and going on outside the committee meetings to try and push your agenda, that to me is kind of officially icky. I just don't care for that.
We have a motion on the floor.
No.
All right.
I would like to make,
one more. Let's go.
well, I would like to put a broader view to this. I think this committee has done an outstanding job, co-chairs and committee members, in a very difficult situation with tight timing, with difficult constraints, and the costs and budget stuff that threw us recently with a bit more of a boomerang. But I think that we should not discourage discussion outside the meetings because that's gathering information. As long as we, as committee members, are honestly and sincerely serving our community and our club and interests, like I'm not just tennis club, I'm tennis, interests of tennis players, tennis friends, neighbors, friends, family who may come visit, not just a tennis club. As long as we're representing the community together, then I think it's okay, because we don't have time in these meetings to cover everything. So,
and I understand that. My thought is that when the board members are the ones doing it, they are they have a position. They have a weight to their opinions that we as committee members do not have. And when it's the board members themselves doing it, I feel like that weight is stronger.
But the vote is one vote and not 3 or 5.
So do we want to, all right, so Anita?
Just a couple things. When we make our recommendations, they will go to the board and the board can speak then. They don't need to speak now. But this board was, from what I understand, supposed to be very transparent. That was the big thing about this board. They were going to be transparent, and anything you want to know, any question you can ask, they were willing to. I have heard so many things that we have not heard as a group. And I'll give you one example. I have heard that the PIF money will be split 3 ways. $10 million Mountain View, $10 million Lakeview, $10 million golf. I've heard that come from a board member's mouth. We have not heard that in this meeting. We heard that our PIF budget was going to be cut to nothing with absolutely no authority. It was just something that was said. And if we're having transparency, Jeff just asked for the board members to go out in the hallway and speak to something privately with them. What took 20 minutes, almost 25 minutes, to tell us that we won't get numbers until October 20th? What else was said up there? That's the transparency I'm concerned about.
That's the concern.
And those are the backstory meetings that are happening that we don't know about. And then we get directed down another path, as we did redesigning Lakeside.
Well, in the end, I think we make a recommendation to the board, and the board conducts town hall meetings, and the board makes the decision. So the board has a lot to say, and they have a lot of vested interest. Believe me, if I were in your positions, I would be going, yeah, I've got a lot of interest here to make this right. And we've got time that's behind this, and we're trying to make a decision that's going to benefit the community, and we want to do it fiscally responsibly. We want to have the friendship of Sun City residents intact when we're done. And I love this Sun City. We just need to keep it that. But I think we need to have one of the members run these meetings. That would be good. So that we need to have, invite somebody to be that chairperson, or not chairperson, but a spokesperson.
I think, we do welcome the input from the board, but they're going to get the vote in the final in the end. I do not think they should have a vote at our meetings here. We should not have a vote beyond the RCSC, but not as a voting.
They'll have their vote after the joint
Yes.
committee.
Okay, well, all right, last.
So can we go back to Norm's compromise, so we all, I'm not sure if we all understood that.
No, we have to finish.
Let's finish the motion and take a vote on it, and if it gets voted down, then we'll step to the healthy direction.
So I thought that's part of the discussion.
Go ahead.
Does everybody understand Norm's recommendation for a compromise?
I do, but we have a motion on, and if people vote that down, then we'll look at other alternatives, such as what Norm has put out there. So,
Under Robert's Rules of Order, there's another procedure that you can use. And that is, if the second withdraws the second, then the motion is mute. And you can go on with a new motion or go on with discussion or whatever you want to do.
So that's why I'm suggesting that we let him give a more comprehensive explanation of a compromise, and then we can decide whether we want to withdraw the first motion to take on the second motion.
well, everybody who doesn't think the first motion's a good idea and that we should be thinking of Norm's way, should be voting no right now.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Okay.
You know, so once more.
Repeat the first motion.
What's the motion now?
The motion was that the committee,
Run the meetings.
that the committee runs the meetings and that the board members will not have a vote when we do votes in the committee. All right? All those in favor? All right, so that did not pass. So let's go talk next.
What was the count?
I mean, there were 5 positive, and there's a lot more committee members here than that, right? So, John?
Just so you call for the affirmative, now you got to call for the negative.
Okay, thank you. So all those against the motion? And the motion does not pass. That was 8. So, committee, what do you think? My other thought off the top of my head, which was my first thought, was simply that the committee members would be the ones with the stronger voice in the committee, the ones who are running the meetings and the ones calling for votes. And that the committee, every committee member gets a vote like they currently do, including the board members. Norm?
Yeah, what was your compromise, Norm?
Norm?
Stand up.
He's not here.
That sounds like a cheer.
He's interested.
You left the building.
Where are we?
So I said,
What you were suggesting.
What I'm suggesting is basically what we did for 2 meetings earlier in this year, where it was run by a committee member. Everybody who's on the committee can come and participate, but it's the committee members running it. And so the discussion is totally controlled by a committee member. And that way, I talked last time about the frustration level growing. It's a natural occurrence with a committee this large that goes for this long with these many problems. So it's not unusual, and it's not an attack on anybody or anything. It's just a natural human development. I've been through a lot of these committee meetings. In the end, it can work out. But right now, we're in a nasty position. We're all tired of it. We're all up to our ears. I don't want to make another drive from Prescott. But we've got to get this done. We got to come up with a resolution, even if the recommendation is we can't make a decision.
Norm, I'm interrupting because I'm interrupting.
First you tell me I'm not here, and then you interrupt.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody on the committee understands when Norm says the committee runs it, that means one of you.
We understand.
Okay.
Right,
Has
multiples
to
of us.
step up.
Right.
Okay.
And part of that, it's important that the committee chairs keep us in the loop of what's going on in between meetings, instead of talking among themselves and then coming into the next meeting with an agenda without our knowledge. So if we are going to run the meetings, then as things happen during the week that will affect what we need to know in the coming week, then the committee chairs need to share that with the committee. And I think that's something that's been seriously missing along the way. Anita?
I just have one comment. I'm on several committees. And in all the committees I'm on, none of the chair or co-chair have a vote. So why would this be different?
But we've already voted on that, so.
I'm just asking the question, what makes this committee different?
What? I didn't hear a vote on.
All right, so Norm, kind of to your thought, it's pretty much the exact same thing I said. That the committee in future will be, the committee members that are not board members will be in charge of the committee meetings in the future and be driving the meeting?
Well, it wasn't exactly what I said. What I said was that in this interim period where we're not scheduled to meet, we could meet as a committee, and that meeting would be run by a committee member of the committee's choice.
Yeah.
And the discussion would be handled by whoever's running the meeting and directing it, and it would be
I have a
to
question.
air a lot of these things.
have
What
a
about
question.
what about the chairs? Do they get to come?
Absolutely, they're committee members, and they're here just like everybody else. They don't lose their rights.
What are we going to talk about the next meetings that we don't have to have?
Well, one thing I think we need to do is to consolidate what we thought we had agreed to, that now is confused in my mind anyway, because we're going back over some areas that we thought
Old stuff.
that we had decided. And so if we can just confirm what we've decided, what we agreed on, I think that's a big step in the right direction.
Maybe we could do some quick straw votes today on those simple things, such as the golf course. But I personally don't want to meet again until we have actual numbers. I mean, that's up to the committee, and we actually already voted on that we would not vote to meet again until we have numbers.
Didn't we kind of agree to what Marlene put on her picture?
No, we were waiting for Marlene to come back.
No, but I mean as far as things that we wanted to include.
Right.
Pending embracing.
That was,
Right. Paul,
Yes, sir.
could you put up the slide that shows Marlene's proposal?
You mean the drawing?
Yes. Her space plan.
but as she stated over and over and over again, it wasn't a true proposal. It was simply space available for it. But in that discussion, we did very clearly talk about what we thought was important to us and what wasn't important to us.
And until we got numbers from her, we couldn't change this.
Right.
Because we didn't know what to change.
Right. And that's where we are right now.
Why do we need other meetings?
Well, there.
I mean, but yeah.
I think I agree with Norm that we can solidify what Marlene put up on those. We agreed, though it may have been wants in Gene's thinking that we were answering the question, what do you want? What do we want to keep there? In my mind, I was always thinking data-driven. This is what the data is saying, this is what we want. So those things, to confirm that that's what we decide would be useful. Today, mini golf, Gene, I think, was ready to say, hey, mini golf, we as a group agreed that mini golf was going to stay. It's important enough. I know. But Gene was going to ask something that's very important, I think, and that was, why not do it now? Renovate it now.
But with that,
Don't wait. We don't need to know where.
We do need to know numbers.
No, we don't need to know numbers for the mini golf.
Because it's not PIF,
It's right, and it's
No,
it's not.
It is not
It's
PIF.
not going to be
It's fitness.
impacted. It's not going to be impacted by the Performing Arts Center.
Am I wrong with that? I mean, that's normal maintenance of the course. That's not PIF, is it?
Once you start
One
working,
thing at a
it's
time.
covered under PIP.
Let's go back, and first of all,
Right.
does the committee, and I'm not trying to check anything, but is this to you, your thought of a beginning level for discussion? You don't want to go back any further than here. This is where you as a committee are coming from.
exactly.
Okay? Now, one of the questions that Anita asked in the meeting of 8:31, I believe, was what if, when the numbers came back, they were too high? Would we be permitted to remove something? Because we don't have any more money for you. So you're going to have to remove something from the process if it doesn't fit into the budget. So today you're having a conversation about the mini golf, but here's the deal. You don't know how much that mini golf is going to cost, and you don't know if that's the thing that's going to have to go or something else. Absent the numbers, you just don't know. And to confuse things just a little bit further, because I don't mean to confuse them, is that the value of the mini golf, for example, I had this conversation during the finance and budget meeting, was it's conceivable that the mini golf project could be a capital expense, which means it wouldn't necessarily have to count against the PIF, which would give you slightly more breathing room. So I understand that people want to get started in fixing some stuff, but until you know what your real numbers are, you don't know what you're going to have to rearrange.
Well, I would like to respond to that. I think you're right in total. But if we determine as a group that mini golf is going to stay, and we determine as a group, where one of the big things was determine whether PAC was possibly going to Lakeview or staying at Mountain View. If it stays at Mountain View, the focus has been not on the mini golf course. That was option 2, and everybody's not agreed with option 2 and all the ramifications of option 2. Any versions of PAC does not impact the mini golf. So my view is, do it. Let's let people.
All right, but what are waiting until we have numbers
Why
in
does
the
that-
beginning of October make any difference at all to this decision right now?
Exactly.
So why do we need to vote on that now?
Why do we need to wait to fix if the non bowling?
Because it's a minute one little item, and we're talking the overall of Mountain View. And I think we need to come up with a plan which is the overall Mountain View.
Companion
What do you think?
is now exiting.
Okay.
Can we like roll it back a little bit? And let me make one more motion because we never did finish that
Yeah,
off.
let's finish the.
Okay? I make the motion that the committee and future committee meetings will be run by committee members other than board members.
I second that.
And that every single committee member will have their single vote.
And chairs are welcome.
And what?
Committee members.
And what is it?
The chairs are operating as committee.
They're as committee members, exactly.
And they can vote.
Exactly, that's what I just said.
I would
Yes.
second that motion.
Okay, ayes?
All for ayes? So the committee members.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And nays? 1? Okay.
There's only 9 people here.
It wouldn't have mattered anyway. So that motion carries. The other issue was Norm wanted us to get together in the interim, but we already voted we didn't want. I really strongly feel like we're kind of spinning our wheels until we have numbers. I really want to see numbers and have a clue what we're talking about.
Let some of the others.
Yeah. I didn't come
came up here to run the meeting. Does somebody else want to?
That's the next motion. Next motion is that, Norm, you run the meeting again?
He has a concern about, he wants to continue the meeting and discuss.
She doesn't want a meeting.
One
To
conversation at a
discuss,
time?
I'm not sure, what do you want to discuss if we have a meeting next week?
Well, we have some question as to whether, so there was confusion with the old data flowing in with the stuff since Marlene.
Okay.
What have we already taken strong and then vote on? And what? That's part of it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what the committee told
Because the
her.
rest of my question to that is,
I'm so confused.
have we agreed we're going to renovate or rebuild the pack at Mountain View? And if we have, I don't know if we have, if we have,
That's all.
We have
no
money.
okay, so we haven't decided that.
Yeah.
So, are we going to prioritize what is up there?
I believe.
This is our $27 million and this is what we want to do first?
I believe
Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if there's something that does not impact that decision at all, why wait until 5 years from now to do the mini golf?
Well, nobody says that we have to wait 5 years to
Oh, I
do the
know.
mini golf if we decide to do it
I
as
know,
part of the thing.
but I've been,
Especially if it's part of the capital budget instead of part of the
well,
TIF.
that's true, there's some decisions to be made.
It's been put on, the poor golf has been put on hold and has turned into a pile of, you know what, because of the fact that the decision hasn't been made as to what to do with Mountain View as a whole. I don't see how voting 1 month earlier, I mean, I strongly believe when we come back and Marlene is here, that she will come in with real numbers and probably have an idea of more than this to talk to us about, and be able to sit there and walk us through the exact cost of each of these things and help us decide. And then at that point, we would be voting on our priorities. And are we willing to give up this in order to have that? And, you know, I think that's all things we need to know numbers for before we make decisions on.
So Sue, what, on that list, her project came, where it says to remain, to remain, to remain, we're saying we haven't decided that yet.
This was strictly, as she said over and over again, this was strictly to prove that if we decide to keep those, there's a space for them on the property.
But we're not saying that they will
We haven't
need
made
it.
any final decisions on any of that. That's kind of the point.
Okay.
So, I wonder, does anybody know, and she'll have an idea of what it would cost to totally renovate the PAC?
October 20th.
October 20th.
Well, she'll have some numbers for us.
For the PACS by itself.
That's correct.
That's
That was one of the
Right.
requirements that the committee
Yeah.
gave her. This was one,
And then it'll take
Is she just
time.
doing the PAC or is she doing other things too?
just a package.
Just a pack.
It will, yeah.
No, she's doing this whole thing, Jeff. Yeah.
No, we're talking about two different
PAC.
things. The
That's
pack
right.
at Lakeview is just the
It's
pack.
just the fact that
Yeah.
Lakeview, but she's doing that.
But this is Mountain View, and
This
she's,
plan, this entire
that's
plan,
what she's
numbers
doing.
1 through 12.
Because that's what we told her.
Which
We said
includes a
these are
reminder
what
of
we
the
want.
Right.
This is the list.
Right, that's the
That's what the committee said, yeah, we want.
So guys, so she knows these are our priorities. We were clear during our meetings with her, and now it's down to money. How much we have, how much it will cost. And when she's here and walks us through, and I believe she'll have not only numbers, but probably alternatives based on numbers. You know, okay, do you want this? If you want that, then we need to come up with money somewhere else. And I think she'll do a good job of walking us through that, which is, you know, why I'm kind of happy with where we are right now and waiting for the money to come through. There was, Norm wanted to know if we wanted to do additional meetings in between.
No.
All right. And that's how many?
do a vote on that?
Can we do a vote on that? How many people want additional meetings? Vote aye if you want additional meetings between now and October. Additional meetings, yes? That's, yeah, additional meetings. You want meetings. Norm doesn't even want meetings. That's two. How many people do not want to vote again, to meet again until the October meeting as planned? So, and that's the majority. So our next meeting will be in October.
Sue?
I'm sorry, when I said earlier that talking behind, I love the email communications. As long as the whole committee's included in the emails, I think that's a positive way in the interim to have discussions that you might want to discuss. But I do think those emails should go to the committee as a whole. Yeah.
I have a question jumping ahead a bit. We're going to have these town hall meetings. What happens to the data that comes out of that when the other residents of Sun City say, we need this, we need this, we need this, we did it.
And John, I'm calling on you.
Do those come back to us, or do they go to the board, or what?
One of the things is, because the schedule is getting pushed back, it's probably not worthwhile to have the first 2 meetings in October when we don't have, even if the committee has.
Right.
So we'll probably try to have those in November.
Okay.
And I apologize for that, but as you
So then
know,
what happens to what they're going to tell us?
If the community strongly says they dislike what we did, or they strongly recommend something, does that recommendation come back to the committee, or does it go back to the board and then the board makes decisions?
That's the question.
what would you like it to do?
I think it should come back to the committee. Committee, do you agree to say, raise your hand if you agree that if there are major changes to be made to our recommendation by the community, that those recommendations come back to the committee for further discussion? Raise your hand for an aye.
May I ask a question about that? How is it determined that the committee, the town halls, if 3 people speak, is that a major thing, or do we have to have 100 people, or when does it become an issue?
That's a great question, because I hate one really loud person says, yeah, that person wants a gymnasium. It should have one.
I just don't want it to come back to us because there's 5 people.
I think that would have to be left up to the board to make that decision. I don't think that would be something we could decide.
Yeah, I don't want us all to meet because one person doesn't want to spot.
So, let's say any information that you glean from the town halls are going to be public, so you will know what the members think when
We should be there.
Yes, the town halls. You should probably be presenting at the town halls, because this is the committee's work. And I don't mean to throw any extra issue in there for you, but keeping my eye on the budget constantly, I have to ask you a question. You've seen what Marlene drew for the Lakeview project.
Yes.
And you know it's a complete new project. And I'm looking at this drawing and I'm listening to what you're all saying, and I'm getting a sense that you feel really strongly about this drawing right here. And so I'm wondering how the committee feels about the Lakeview aspect of this. If this committee is not really feeling the Lakeview process, we might as well pull back from that and not go to the expense and time of asking Marlene or anyone else to develop numbers for that process, if that really truly is not the direction you want to go in.
And it's all down to money, and that's a very strong point. I mean, if the reality is that our budget is not capable of building a brand new PAC, no matter where it is, Mountain View or Lakeview. So that kind of leaves us back to renovating this. Assuming she comes back and says this building has been tested and can be renovated, because she was still on that if level last we saw her. I have to say, I've been strongly all along that our best option, money-wise, will probably be this option. And that Lakeview is pretty much off the table because we don't have the money. We just don't have the money. I wish. It would be lovely. It'd be lovely to have a brand new PAC no matter where we could build it. But with the numbers of current costs having skyrocketed, and really our original plan, as Jean showed us today, the plan to option 2 was already pretty much out of our budget. That budget only did the gymnasium, the fitness center, and the PAC, and none of the rest of what we're looking at. So, and it was already we were already out of budget already, and that was 5 years ago. So, anybody want to make a motion on this? all right, I'll make a motion. I move that we focus on this location for and a renovation of this location for our Performing Arts Center, assuming it happens, but and that we stop focusing on Lakeview. We stop, as in we don't have her go and spend the money to do a plan out there. We don't have her, which is a lot of money. I'm sorry, it's expensive to get an architect to do that. It's expensive to get them to go out and do the plans, the surveys ahead of time. If it's not something we feel that we as a committee will be recommending purely due to budget, should we save that money and have that money toward things we can spend here?
I will second your motion.
I just have a comment on that. We still don't know for the renovating of the PAC there is how much that's going to cost. You have to figure out that has asbestos. It's got a lot of things that need to be. Am I right?
But the motion said
Is she going to show us that?
I'm sorry, I want to answer your question, but I want to know if I understand your question. Are you asking if Mountain View has an asbestos issue?
Yes, that's
And the answer is we've already tested, and there is not an asbestos issue at the Mountain View facility.
Thank you, good. Surprising news.
I think I'm seconding your motion.
All right, Anita is seconding the motion. So the basic motion is that we spend our monies and our time on Mountain View and the Performing Arts Center at Mountain View, and not spend money on developing a plan for Lakeview.
right.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keep your hands up, 6, 7, 8. All those negative? 2, so 3, so that carries. So board members, please note, that's our committee's recommendation. Good job, Susan. Let's go home. John, something to say?
Eugene had mentioned in the beginning, it might be good to use some time for the guests.
That's right.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Well,
15 minutes.
so that's a good point.
Jean, you're in charge.
Gene, go.
Gene,
You're back.
you want to be the leader?
I'm back.
Right, Gene.
Okay. Okay. Let's try not to keep rehashing the same thing. So,
New issue.
Jim.
On one of the slides, it had budgetary cost of operation. I haven't heard any discussion of what that number might be or where you're going to get it from, but it needs to be considered. How many more employees are we going to need at that location if you do all those things? How much is that going to cost?
Let me make sure I understand what you're saying. You assume you're figuring that if we do that, it's going to take more employees than what we have now?
Yes, and more work and effort.
Operating expenses.
Operating expenses, especially if you hire some of the people for the lights and for cameras and whatever the hell they're going to use that stuff for. We don't have those people now.
Committee, so noted.
As a response to that, our job is to make a recommendation on what we want to build and give it to the board. The board needs to figure out what kind of administrative cost you're going to have.
It was on your slide. That's
We
one
have
of the things to be
enough, I know it was.
On one of my slides?
Yes, the very beginning.
was there.
Consider the cost of maintenance or administration or whatever.
Yes.
We can't figure out those numbers, we don't know it. The administration has to do that. It is, it's something for
It's in there.
It's there.
All right. Do you want to see it?
No.
No.
All right.
As far as lighting and sound are concerned, members of the players are handling that on our own. So that there's no additional cost there.
But Chad, that's just for the players.
That's just for the players. So I can't comment on the other possibilities. But there is a good bit of cross-fertilization between players and some of the other arts groups as well.
Thank you. Sir?
Something new. I promise. On behalf of Steve Collins, he said, and it's true, that we do not have to follow ADA. Now, this is a technical question for board members that are here. My understanding is that we will always do our civil best. Our intention, our will, our wish is to follow
that's a bylaw.
ADA. Isn't that true,
Oh,
President Fimmel? Is that about right?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood what you said. Are you asking if, despite the fact that it's a nonprofit, we don't have to meet certain ADA requirements? Will we, in fact, take into consideration the fact that our community may have some mobility issues?
Well, I guess it's
our
not that
level
it needs to
best to make sure that the theater has good access?
But I
Yes,
think,
of course.
but I'm just, well, not of course, but I'm just saying, what is, I heard that their policy statement.
There is a policy, number 35.
Okay, can you have it there?
I do. I mean, I don't want to take...
It's important, but it's important to everything.
It is preferred that all reasonable, I'm trying to skip a little here. That all reasonable accommodation requests be submitted in writing to the Director of Operations.
Well, I think that's an important point to clarify, is my point, I guess.
Okay, well, I think we clarified it. And again, the last couple of questions that related to operational things, and this committee is focusing on building.
It's not on that. It's on how you build ramps. It's how you do the steps in the theater.
Everything we have designed to date has all been ADA approved.
But we're talking about golf. Maybe you could move golf. This is important because maybe you could move golf and not have to follow ADA.
And these would be questions the committee could ask and answer when they come back together and they have their architect present.
Okay, thank you.
So if it's of any interest to anybody, I'm on a website right now that says the ADA applies to private employers with 15 or more employees.
That's all it says.
It says it's equally important to remember that privately run businesses that do not rely on the general public or function for their benefit can still be bound by the ADA so long as they have 15 or more people in their employ.
Talking specifically about our 501c4, I think it is that.
We're a privately run business, Tom. That's what we are. We're a corporation.
It applies. We're a privately run.
Well, then that needs to be clarified because I've heard many respectable sources tell me this, including Stephen Collins.
Well, I think it's in our bylaws and policies and articles. So I would listen to them rather than all the other folks. Is there anyone else of our guests that would like to speak? Is there any other committee members that still have things they want to talk about? Are you sick of this meeting? Karen? You need a microphone? Yes.
You know, I want to thank everybody for all the work that you're putting into this. I do think that we should not leave today before deciding, since there has been a group decision that the committee is going to run this going forward, that we figure out names and who's going to take responsibility for that. So there is a lot that happens between meetings, and sometimes it's just what is the agenda going to be? We have no agenda. You have to make sure that you're handling all the communications. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that has to go on, so I would encourage you, before you leave today, for there to be real clarity, that 2 or 3 people step up and say, I'm going to be the point person, because when everybody's responsible, nobody's responsible. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to say, and just because it was brought up, what kind of stuff goes on behind closed doors. So when the 3 of us went out there and we were told, Jeff told us that we weren't going to be able to get any cost figures until October 20th. It was like, okay, well, what do we want to make sure happens today? Well, part of that was just figuring out how many Fridays are there between now. Well, it turns out that there are 3. So it's September 29th, October 6th, October 13th. And so the question was, okay, what would make sense for us for this group? We discussed that. But another thing that we discussed is that this is the drawing that Marlene has turned in to her cost estimators. And my question was, has this drawing actually been fully discussed and fully approved by this group before Marley goes to the effort of having it cost estimated? So one of the things, for instance, that's up here under number 9 is a lap in the sports pool. Does anybody here ever remember hearing data? So not just I want or it would be really nice, but data that says we need to have another pool in Sun City that we don't currently have. Does anybody remember having that discussion? So that's.
I thought, Karen, that was based, I don't know that it was data driven, but I thought that came from originally the consternation with volleyball time usage at Oakmont needing to have a pool for volleyball. Along the way, it was suggested by the swim club that they would like to have meter length lanes in that pool for when the volleyball group was not using it. Subsequent to that, I heard that the volleyball people say, no, we're fine with, or somebody representing volleyball, we're fine with Oakmont after all. So I think there was.
Has anybody ever heard that? I mean, Oakmont has two swim lanes. It's not very far away. There's 8 of them at Bell. And so my question is, I actually did a deep dive in this into the Oakmont pool numbers. And if you take out water volleyball and take out aqua fitness and just look at only regular general usage and the 2 swim lanes, they average 2 sign-ins per hour, including those lanes. So my question simply is, have we ever been convinced, other than somebody said, boy, well, the reason that we ended up with the sports pool was because in Mountain View option 2, there were some people on the old board that said, water volleyball is the fastest growing sport in Sun City. We need to have a pool for them. Well, it had gone from 50 to 75. That was a 50% increase. There was no other group that was growing by 50%. So, Scott, I'm not sure exactly about those numbers, but so anyway.
We have 130 now.
Is that 130? So yeah, and so I'm not trying to make that argument. All I'm saying is that this was the discussion that we were having out there, is that I'm saying, are we really sure that we have discussed this through? And let me just mention one other thing that I'm afraid hasn't been discussed yet here, and then I'll get to you. So it's the whole point is that this has gone in and we're paying money to have this cost estimated, right? So we have to know this. And one of the things, for instance, is pickleball as a shaded, vented building. Does anybody here remember having a conversation about whether we want that building to be just a pavilion or whether we wanted to have indoor pickleball?
Karen, we're talking numbers again. That's purely a matter of how much it will cost, and that's what she will be presenting.
Well, I understand that we're asking her to do numbers for something, and my question is, are these the numbers that we want to have from her?
These are the numbers, these are the numbers we have available to us. If we were positioned to have the conversations, and you said today you weren't positioned until you had real numbers to work with. It's sort of a catch-22. Until you produce something for which you can get a cost estimation, you can't determine something until you have the cost estimation. This is what the architect determined based on conversations. No one has approved or said this is the final document. We can't do that. We're not positioned to do that until we now see the numbers that aren't going to be seen for another 4 weeks. When you receive those numbers, you can probably fully expect another robust set of conversations about what the final bill will look like. But no, this is not the final anything. This is call it a stopping point if you like, where you can take a breath, get some real numbers, and know what you're really talking about. And then you'll be positioned to know what can stay, what may have to go, what may have to be moved here, what may have to be moved there. And the clock on the wall tells me if I'm going to follow all the rules, that our time is probably coming to an end.
Karen, on that lap pool, I kind of agree with you on that. It would make sense if that pool was like half walking pool and half lap pool, because at Bella, that lap pool is used all the time.
There's one very important part about that lap pool that we're forgetting. And when he was here, we don't have a regulation lap pool for competitive or club swimmers. And the pools that we do have are not healthy for lap swimmers.
Actually, that's
And
not
that
true.
leaves,
That's not true, Anita. The pool at Bell is,
I'm going by what he said.
well,
Okay.
what he
And
said.
maybe wrong, I don't know.
What we have 8 lanes at Bell that qualify for senior swimming, and they are at a temperature that is ideal for people who are doing
Well,
laps.
I'm going by what he had to say.
That's correct.
Yeah, so.
And if he's wrong, he's wrong.
Yeah, so it's fine.
But that's kind of how we got there.
I'm not trying to start a conversation right here. It was just that there was so much sort of indignation about the fact that we took more than 2 minutes because we were having this discussion. You can imagine the three of us having this discussion. As you see it, you're having this discussion. That's all that happened out there, okay? So the question simply is, what if she had said, well, let's put a chicken coop here and let's put, a chess club over here. And we said, well, we just want to see what the numbers are and then make the decision. No, you want her to be getting the numbers on your best plan. And I guess that was my question, I questioned whether this is really, whether we had thoroughly asked for our best plan to get numbers on.
This is what we as a committee went through step by step over about 3 weeks and agreed to her doing. So I think at this point, this is where we need to be until we get numbers.
Okay.
If she had said chicken coop, we would have said
Believe
no.
me, I'm more than willing to step back and never say another word here. But one of the things that nobody here discussed, I asked her in the meeting, how big is building number 7, so the shaded vented pickleball court? She said it's 19,000 square feet and it has 8 pickleball courts in it. We have 8 pickleball courts in Marinette in a shaded vented building, and that's 30,000 square feet. Okay, so I went to her and I said, well, she went by the US APA says 34 feet by 64 feet.
We understand, Karen, but we heard this last meeting too.
But my point is, we're going to get, at this point, we would get cost estimates on something that is physically impossible. You cannot get 8 pickleball courts on 19,000 square feet. So, but we still want to send it to her and ask her to give that to us.
It's time to leave. If the committee wants to keep hassling with each other, go for it. Yes, thank you for coming.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.